welcome to another episode of Harbor Rock Wealth Management's podcast series, Life, Health, and Wealth, where we discuss financially driven topics and how they relate to our financial lifestyle, and where we are unconstrained and unscripted always. I'm Jimmy Luster. This is Ruben Smith. And today we have a very special guest on the show, Dr. Brad Baker, the principal of Dana Hills High School. Thanks for being here, Brad.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you.
Sure. Brad is definitely a friend of Harbor Rock and an inspirational educator in the local community. And I got to say right off the bat, the first time I met Brad, Ruben and Brad go back quite a ways, but the first time I met Brad was, 6-7 months ago, and I happened to be in the principal's office having lunch.
That's true.
I spent a little time in the principal's office for other reasons when I was in high school, and we'll get to those experiences personally for each one of us down the road. But thanks for having us there. You shared with us a little bit about your story and how you arrived at Dana Hills. And, I got to sit back. We had another gentleman there with us, an old friend that joined us for that conversation. Right. And I really enjoyed all of you and watching the kind of dynamic and sharing your stories of where you came from and how you arrived to be. And those stories are so impactful. Right. But we're excited to have you sharing that today. Yeah. You want to give us a little background on you and maybe personally, professionally, on how you arrived?
Yeah, sure. And thank you guys for having me on and be able to share a little bit, and looking forward to a good conversation. I'm a local kid. I grew up in San Clemente. Was born in Houston, Texas, but we moved out to California, to San Clemente, when I was in third grade. That's where I met, Jake and your brother, Nate. Went to Concordia Elementary, and, went through the school system in the Capistrano Unified School District.
Sure.
About third grade, though, at least in my educational experience, I was having a little rough time around that. I went to a small Christian school, and then started a public school and just really struggled academically. And that was probably 1982 or something around there. And then, they did some testing, and I got labeled pretty early with attention deficit disorder, dyslexia, auditory processing. And so, I kind of got tracked into that special education label mode early on, which was good. I had supports and what have you, but it just wasn't performing very well. And then around my sophomore year, I was in what they call IEP, or individual education plan. I won't do too many acronyms for you guys. But I was in that meeting, and I was an accomplished athlete at the time, and my coaches were telling coaches, or college coaches were asking about me and this and that. So I kind of turned my attention to going to college. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to play football in college. I want to attend college. Well, during that meeting, we planned, your classes and stuff. And, I said, I want to go to college, so I have to get these what's called A through G requirements done to be eligible to go to college. And one of the teachers, and I think she was trying to protect me at the time, just said, well, college isn't really for you. Like, it's not for you.
What'd she mean by that?
Just that I shouldn't be taking the kind of higher level classes. She just didn't really
wasn't in your future.
Yeah. Just and I don't think it was ill. Like she was doing it for that reason. I think it was more protection. But it really it kind of hit me hard that wow, like I'm in this track here where I can't accept a scholarship to go to college and play football.
Yeah, well, especially at that point, probably you hadn't heard a lot of no's.
You had
heard, keep it going, buddy. Like, we're all behind you, and you're successful. And
and that was a big no.
Wow.
And that no turned into, oh yeah, let me show you. And so from there, I really just mustered all I could and just really, really, turned the corner, worked my tail off. I graduated high school with a very low GPA. I didn't fulfill the A through G, but I did end up going to junior college. And from there it was interesting because that's just about the time Microsoft Word was, and we were using personal computers constantly. And then I found that with the dyslexia and spell check, I can get everything that was in my head now out and output.
Interesting.
That changed everything.
Through the editing. Got you.
So I had it in my head. I couldn't just pen to paper, get it done.
So that was always a challenge for you. And now
I have the tool.
You have a tool to do it.
Now I have the tool. Now I get 4.0 at a Saddleback. We win a national championship. I get all my classes done, start from the bottom, English 300 all the way through 1B. Able to earn a full ride scholarship to Azusa Pacific University. were there. I think I graduated with a 3.9 GPA.
Wow.
Was just feeling it. Won another national championship with that college.
Which I can speak to the
Wait,
curriculum.
So, you have 2 rings.
Two rings, yeah.
Attaboy.
2 rings.
Wow.
I can speak to that difficulty of the curriculum.
Yeah.
I also, as we discussed, I was an APU guy myself.
Yeah, that's right.
Playing baseball
Go
there.
Cougs, yeah.
And the curriculum is not easy.
No.
There's nowhere to hide out in those classes.
It's small.
There's only 7,000 undergrads, and
Yes.
you were there a couple of years before me, so
Yes.
it might have even been smaller then. But I remember there is no 300-person lecture hall class that you can hide out. Like when I was at Fullerton,
Yes.
Sociology 1, I could hide out.
Yeah.
There's like 20 to 30 kids.
Oh, yeah.
You're in the spotlight.
And you know what? That's what I needed, though. I had some D1 offers, and at that time in my life, I was dating my now wife. I had a great friends that are actually going there, Jake Jerome being one of them. And it just really felt faith-wise and knowing myself that would be the best opportunity for me to be successful academically. I was making good choices at 22, which was great.
It sounds like an adult decision versus taking the D1.
Totally.
And
Close enough to home that family people can't necessarily just drop in on you all the time, but you can get to home quickly, do some laundry, get a home cooked meal. I did share in that also.
It was I enjoyed Azusa and being an hour away compared to being in Idaho or Illinois.
Florida.
Yeah. As a San Clemente boy, it was tough getting off that plane. It was 0 degrees.
Right.
It was tough. But I loved my experience at APU. My academic motivation just really took off. And I knew early on, I wanted to be an educator. That was a huge thing. So I majored in education right away, just from the influential coaches I had and teachers, the positive ones I had.
Sure.
And so from there, just fast forward, I got a campus supervisor job. I played in Europe, rewind a little bit, played in Europe for 2 seasons, then came back while Amy, my wife, was graduating, and went back to San Clemente High School and went to go see my old coach and said, hey, I'm looking to coach and teach. And he said, I got a job for you. And so I took a job as a campus supervisor while I went to school at night and coached in the afternoons. So again, busy, right? Mm-hmm. And from there, I got my teaching credential, got a teaching position, science teacher, went back, got my master's degree. And then I just got this crazy idea to go into administration. And then from there, a friend of mine was telling me about the USC doctoral program. And I said, why not? Let's do it. Right? Why not? Let's see what happens. And so I apply, I get in, and I finish there. I get a scholarship, I get top grades, and the rest is history. So
That's incredible.
So just going from that one meeting saying no to now, having the highest degree on my campus, right? And the one thing I do now too, and I didn't do it my first principal job, is tell that story. I was a little worried that I would be judged, you're special ed. He's a kid that had special education, so why would we follow? I was a little insecure about that.
Sure.
My second principal job, Dana Hills, I led with it.
Day
one.
Yep.
I realized you got to be vulnerable as a leader first, right? Before you're going to start building trust. And so for me, that's my why. And I wanted everyone to know that every single kid in the school I believe in, because I was that kid who was struggling. And we can't write their future, right? And so for me, it's that just relentless encouragement and support for students and for our teachers, of course.
Well, think about our favorite teachers growing up.
Yeah.
My 4th grade teacher. I remember my kindergarten teacher. I won't say any names, but even through high school, some of the teachers that had the biggest impact on me, they didn't fully disclose everything, but they were willing to be vulnerable and honest and open about and anytime that they critiqued me, I felt it was coming from a place of help and support as opposed to pointing a finger.
Sure.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, like they're here and you're here.
Yeah.
No. We're partners in this.
Partners in business mode, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so
not being a friend, right? Not being in kid mode with them, but being business mode together and support. Yeah.
And when you say vulnerable, so there was a point in my own personal journey about 3 or 4 years ago where, one thing, James and I, we constantly revamp how our approach to this business.
Sure.
So we're open for expansion and new ideas and how we word things. And but
Yeah.
there was a point where I went through a major life event, and what led that was the willingness to be vulnerable and honest, own my past, embrace my past, and use that to build deeper connections with clients, my wife, my kids. For the first time in my life, I was being a dad, even though my kids were several years old. I mean, think about those types of moments where you're going, oh my God. So, but being vulnerable and leading with that, I think had I had more of that in school, and maybe from teachers, definitely, but from the higher ups, the principals, the VPs, where they were willing to be vulnerable and more open and present with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, one thing that can happen when you have quite a bit of success, either whether it's on the field, now you had some success academically, things are cooking for you. You've arrived. I mean, you've arrived on the educational scene as a professional. You're starting to spread your wings. You're feeling comfortable, and me personally, sometimes the fulfillment piece. You don't have that as much as you did during that ride up. It can be, quite a rush as especially if you're moving quickly through. You're like, wow, I'm getting promoted. I'm doing this now. All this fulfillment, and now you're here, and it be a little bit of maybe complacency as far as that fulfillment piece. Where do you find that you get fulfillment now? Now you're a principal. You have the gig. You're doing well. You're a respected educator in this community.
Love it.
All these things. Where do you continue to search for fulfillment? Now, are you inspired by your students? Is it your son, who I know is a great athlete? Where do you get that now?
Well, I mean, I'll start personally. It's really my family, the time with my family and watching them grow and succeed. My wife just took up real estate this last year.
Oh, cool.
And has been crushing it. She closed a house yesterday. And she's just loving it. So I get fulfillment watching their success too. It's kind of like, if you go to Disneyland a lot of times, it's great, right? And you have fun with it. But when you take your kids and you get to see them live it and through their eyes, so that's why I'm enjoying both with my wife and my son, who's an accomplished athlete and will probably be playing Division I football next year. And then my daughter, who's just an amazing young lady, strong faith-based. She's really involved with the church, and she's going to be going for the golf team. So
cool.
that fulfillment comes from that. I just recently, this last year or two, is taking care of myself. I've been working really hard on that. I played football at 300 plus pounds for 14 years, and then getting into administration and teaching, and then having kids. It's just a struggle.
You're not doing bear crawls?
No, I can't do that.
Lunchtime, going out there.
I used to put back 5,000 calories and burn it off, but I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But that fulfillment of taking care of myself in the morning. So I ride the Peloton every morning. It's non-negotiable. So I'm slowly, losing weight through that. And it's a passion to do that. I've really picked that up this last year.
Cool.
So family time and watching their success is huge for me, and then taking care of my own self is huge. So, but professionally, it's almost the same. I mean, I really do enjoy watching my assistant principals learn and grow, get promoted, to have more influence over more people, in a positive way, right? I do a lot of work with them and coaching. So they're doing it where it does make a difference. So like you explained how teachers made you feel, that they do that with teachers. When I walk the hallways and I talk with students, I'm very personable. I'm out front every morning. I get to know the kids' names and what their likes are, and I just find those commonalities and just be consistent. It's really fun. It's enjoyable to walk in a classroom and see really authentic learning happening. Collaboration, good teacher lesson plans, where kids are actually enjoying the experience of learning together. For me as a principal, that's huge. That instruction that's taking place, and that teacher feels supported enough to put their all into that day is huge for me. Well,
and that starts with you.
Sure.
Because you think about it, you're at the top, and it filters down. You're building that culture. So I remember sitting in class in high school, and we get the surprise visit.
Yeah.
Teachers now completely different demeanor.
Yes.
The kids are just
It's like,
no
having
eye
a corporate
contact.
visit
Yeah.
at like
No eye
a
contact.
company. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
It's
like,
just-
who is this person? What they turned into?
yeah, it's
yeah.
like, oh
yeah.
man, are they in trouble?
I knew
Are
it was
are
in
they
you.
calling for
Well,
something?
yeah. Are they in trouble? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's when you create that atmosphere or that environment, you're welcomed with open arms, right? It's like, oh, Dr. Baker.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, and
Cool.
to
Very
me,
cool.
it's about visibility. When I as I learned through the last 7 years and 21 years of education, I kind of boiled it down to a few things, and it was communication, being really good at communicating, and also transparency. So in decision making, using teams to make school-wide decisions, and then visibility and access. Those 4 things were really the bedrock of what any of my approach is in my leadership, I guess, style or preference, whatever you want to call it. And those are huge. And those are things that I've heard over and over and over that teachers want from me, right? They want me to communicate well. They want me to involve them in decision-making that affects all our stakeholders. And they want me in the classroom. That's the crazy thing. I have teachers, please come to my class, be in my class. And I love that. That's a huge thing.
We had a conversation with Jake Jerome that you mentioned earlier, and his topic or what we talked about was breaking stasis, and I feel like you have broken stasis within the principal role. Yeah. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I really intentionally, from experiences I had and also from mentors that I've had that, like you said, that made me feel this way. So that empathetic approach, saying kids need to be able to fist bump their principal in the morning.
Absolutely.
They need to feel that if they got a problem, they can skip the line and come to my office and knock on the door and have first access.
Well, it gives them it gives them a feeling. I'm just putting myself back in that
Sure.
position because I was in high school. I had my group of friends.
Yeah.
I didn't have hundreds of friends. I had like 5.
Yeah.
And it was our thing, and we just did our thing.
Yeah.
But if I had a teacher or a principal come back and actually have genuine interest in me,
Sure.
I have value now.
Absolutely.
And it would be just a completely different experience for me.
Total different. Yep. That's great.
You mentioned that you had some learning challenges
Yeah.
that were, should I say, diagnosed or
Diagnosed.
or brought to light at a pretty young age.
Yeah.
Where are we now with that? Now, with the opportunities for children and that you see in education now, some programs or identifying that and really jumping after that at a young age, and empowering them to move past those things, maybe learn to deal with those things instead of just the label. Has that come a long way, I assume? Or
Yeah, it has. I mean, I think you have to be very mindful, and each child is different. So there are some that obviously, they come with some major challenges, right? And so if you think of it as more like a doctor's office or something, you don't want to do an autopsy if they have a cold, right? Mm-hmm. So, but if they're hemorrhaging, right, then it's emergency, go time, right? So you really have to be intentional about diagnosing and looking and collecting data, really understanding the child social emotionally, academically, right? They're brilliant students, but maybe they're really struggling. Like at home is not, there's not a stable home life. So if you look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, like their basic needs aren't met, so they can't access or produce, skills and content that teachers are looking for. So for me, I've always, with our team, as we look at each student individually, and really try to understand through observation, through work product, through interviews, right, with parents and those types of things, before we start slapping labels on people. I'm a big believer that, that we can provide additional time and support for all students. And we have done that here at Dana Hills. We did that last year. We put in an intervention system where students can select teachers to get help from, and vice versa, students can get help from teachers. And I think that's the key to it, is be proactive and not reactive.
Sure.
Because if it's predictable, to me, it's preventable, right? If we know 30% of our kids are going to get Fs at the end of the 6 week, how can we reduce that?
let's jump in.
Let's jump in. Let's be proactive, and let's give that additional time and support
I love that idea of proactive versus reactive. That's something that we've had. One of our main objectives by breaking away from a large firm and doing our own thing was we were at a point where we had no choice but to be reactive based off of the volume.
Sure.
Okay. So we were as busy as our clients were making us.
Yes.
Okay. Here, taking a step back, doing more with less, we are proactive. We have customized client service models put in place, and our clients are now getting the level of service and attention that they want.
Right.
And it's
huge.
it's a very powerful thing. So.
It's so powerful to operate from the proactive way compared to that just chasing your tail and reacting is just gold.
Well, isn't that what inspirational leaders do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at all the leaders and mentors that we trust.
Yeah.
Their emotion creates emotion, or emotion creates emotion, I like to say. And I heard it in a movie, and it always stuck with me. Like, they're always looking for the next angle to approach me with something.
Yeah, they don't need to approach me, but they did.
Yeah.
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 And it makes me like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I want to do the same thing. We talk about that that magnet.
Yeah.
You know, people that are, you just want to be around them. You're intrigued by them for some reason. It's always those people taking the next step and, well, let's uncover that box and that box, and instead of just staying here,
And doing things that are different, but calculating, that are good for, relationships and good for, the individual or the community that you're serving. I mean, it's super important, right?
Sure.
Well, and it's the differentiator, and I don't know, but I would argue that that differentiator, your willingness to be vulnerable, has allowed you to climb the ladder, so to speak, or get to the position that you are today. So.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of hard work, right?
Sure.
A lot of consistency. But yeah, that being able to connect with people just, in moments notice and be authentic has been the word I've been told quite a bit. Is like, you're easy, you're approachable, you're authentic, you're, those things. And that's, I don't know where that came from exactly. I don't know if that was some of my wiring or it was just part of my experience growing up, but I've always enjoyed being around people. I've always enjoyed the team aspect. I think that was built through athletics, that interdependency on each other to accomplish goals. That excites me. Those are good things. So,
Well, speaking of leadership and inspirational leadership, you've written a couple books on the topic of leadership. Yeah. Tell us about Dr. Brad Baker, the author.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, when you have years of experience and then you've gone back to school and my work that I did at USC, it just really sparked a fire, like, that practical application to be a great leader. Like, it could be learned, right? It wasn't something, there's no Superman that's born or Superwoman. It can be learned through experience and mentorship and what have you. So, as I finished my doctorate, I got a lot of writing. There was a lot of writing in that program. After about a year, I started missing it. And I remember one of my professors said, he goes, write down your experiences and what's happening. Share it, right? And just an incredible human being, very smart, one of probably the smartest men I've ever met. And it just kept coming back to me, like, write it down. And I've done a lot of mentoring and coaching of, new teachers and new administrators. And I found myself hitting the same topics over and over with similar stories that I use to help them connect the understanding or the concept, whether it be, building relationships or knowing their own leadership story or, any of those things. So I was like, hey, let me start chalking it out. So, I started with an outline, and it really morphed over the years. And when I got to about 6 years of a principalship, I really found my focus. And I'm like, it's about relational leadership. I mean, and then I'm like, how do I teach that, right? And how do I provide a tool, right? If any of you are a new administrator in a school, what could I give you where you could actually use, kind of going back to that spell check for me in college.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What can I use to kind of help get them over the hump, right? And come in and have success early, right? Everything I've learned from my experience.
Softer landing,
Softer
more
landing,
chance for success.
More chance for, guaranteed success if you're able to, one, take that leap of faith and say, this is who I am. People are going to know my why, and I'm going to serve, right?
Yep.
And if you get that down and no jobs, beneath you, you're going to be successful. So I started writing, and then, I shared with my brother-in-law, Doug, who is he writes script writer. So he helped me with some stories, and then, Jake Jerome helped me with some editing for that teacher component view. And so it was a collaboration with really important people in my life together. And so, I wanted something small, digestible, and that engaging, and that there's reflection for the person, but also practical application, right? So those are really the three things. So use story, right? Use reflection, and use practical application to do that. So I started there, and then when I had a few people read it that weren't in education, my first one was Relational Leadership, Building Trust to Lead Schools. They said, you should rewrite this and write it just for leaders.
Like
just
generally,
take out all the school stuff. So I said, that's a good idea. So I went back and did that, and it really resonated. So it's picked up, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback on it, and any new administrator, and I humbly do it, but I just give them, and I just say, hey, you could always call me and what have you, but just take a look. This is what I wish I would have had in year one as an administrator.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I've read two of them, and I think they were geared more towards education. Yeah. However, it's a universal concept, like you were saying. Yeah. So, and then when you talked about relational management or leadership, I mean, we often say that we're in the relationship business. Yeah. We just happen to solve for clients' financial needs. Yeah, you're solving for education and the shifting the paradigm inside the schools, which is powerful. So, and where can they find these books?
Yeah, Amazon. Yeah.
Amazon. Everything's on Amazon.
Everything is on Amazon.
You'll have it there tonight.
Yeah. And I've also, since then, and I did a couple of leadership quote books that break down characteristics, too, of leadership. That was kind of my test for publishing. Okay. I wanted to try that. So I have the go-to book of leadership wisdom, and I have 2 volumes there, plus the 2 versions of relational leadership. And then I have a partnership with Dr. Mahindakar, who's a principal in our school district as well. On Saturdays or Sundays, we meet in the garage and write and stuff. And so we have another book, 5 essential steps to building positive relationships. And so we've looked at how can we teach how to build positive relationships, so that, like you explained, that student from that teacher feels valued, feels welcomed, feels that they just didn't randomly end up there, that there's a reason and there's someone there to help them. So. So it's fun, and we're doing a lot of good work with that on the side. So that's something that, just as an entrepreneur, on the side is
it's fantastic. We've in the last year that we've been under Harbor Rock or have opened Harbor Rock, we've had a couple of moments where we've had an idea that came up, and it was an idea that was more than just a pipe dream or like this. This fantasy.
Yeah.
It was, wait a minute. No. Yeah. And if I'm of the belief that if you have something that comes up authentically and it gets you excited and there's passion instantly for it, life is too short to not pursue it.
Can't be ignored.
Nope.
So congratulations.
It's going to keep tapping you on the back.
Yeah. I know.
Absolutely.
We got to keep breaking those barriers down, right? Absolutely. And stop letting fear hold us back. I love the thought that if you're not doing something that's making you a little uncomfortable, you're not moving forward. Right. You should be stretching yourself and trying new things and learning. And right. That's why I spoke at an AVID conference that, I speak in front of people all the time, but this was so different. It scared me. Right. And I had to stretch myself and learn my speech, so well that I can deliver it, where it would be engaging.
Well, you said 5,000 people. I'd be intimidated.
Yeah, and I normally do at graduation and all that, but I didn't realize, being able to share your own personal story is different than running a graduation, right? And doing a speech and where it's controlled, but at 5,000 in Anaheim Convention Center, I was like, I'm a little nervous right now. Yeah,
that's all right.
But once I got up there, I just felt almost out of body, it's like I was meant to share this.
Absolutely.
So,
I remember I've shared this with some people before. Dave Winfield is known as like one of the greatest athletes to ever live.
yes.
I think he was drafted in all basketball, football,
Yeah,
and
all three.
baseball.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
And he chose baseball,
Yeah.
which was cool.
Yeah, he's
But
a monster.
He was just crazy hitter.
Yeah.
And I remember reading something about like, you remember before games,
Yes.
before you gave this talk,
Yeah.
the butterflies that you get, and that's your body's way of preparing yourself to be
Right.
your best and,
Right.
make you on
Yeah.
your good edge. I remember Winfield said, my whole career, every time I went to the dish, people were like, you look so calm and cool. And, he's like, look, every time I went to the dish to hit, I had those butterflies until the very last at bat.
Love that.
And at the point that you don't get those anymore, it's time to either pivot or you're done.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I always think about that. Like you want that getting revved up to do something great.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. And great leaders can be calm on the outside, but still have that, that nervous, but you get through it and then you get stronger and it gets easier each time you push through. So yeah, I like the butterflies. They're
So
good.
let's talk about the word principal.
Yeah.
We all heard principal.
Principal.
He's your pal or she's your pal.
I love when people spell it right.
Right?
Yeah.
And
As an educator.
And it's funny, but I didn't always necessarily feel that they were my pal. And so what's a principal, right? It doesn't mean they're my buddy and I'm hanging out with them on the weekend, right? And there has to be that differentiator of, I am an authority, I'm a leader, and I'm here to help you.
Yes.
But it didn't always feel like that to me when I was in school. And part of that was probably who I was at that time. I didn't consider myself a troublemaker, but I definitely at recess wasn't out reading a book.
Right.
I was out getting sweaty playing ball and, coming in all revved up. And sometimes I was a little chatty 10 minutes into the English lesson from recess and I got sent to the principal and I got a finger pointed at me. And how was that for you, Rube? Like,
For me, I never felt I was on the same level as even with teachers. And there's got to be some level of authority there, but there's a way to that can be manipulated to be more fearful as a student. Sure. Right. But no, I feel like if I ever was walking down the halls of San Clemente High School and I turned a corner and I'm in the hall of lockers and I can't. There's no way to go.
Exit stage right.
And principals coming my way. It's can I be invisible right now? Or okay, no eye contact. Quick little nod. Yeah. Be out of sight.
Or it's like that feeling of like you're out driving and you're not doing anything wrong, but you see a police car
The
and you're all, oh my God, what am I doing?
Did I do something wrong?
I'm in trouble. Like,
well, I could
you're
say,
already guilty.
Totally.
Yeah, I could say if my principal was leading more with what you're leading, it would be a different experience. So
yeah, the thing is, you got 2,000 students, you can have 3,000 students, whatever it is, and so it's a large group to supervise, and and you have lots of people obviously there to support, but as a principal, I see it as earning their respect. So, and not being the friend, but being their principal where they respect me because I treat them fairly. I listen to them. And same with the teachers, because that's where it starts. And if I could do that with my teachers are going to do it with the kids, and it's how it works. But again, going back to just being visible and get in the groups and ask them about their T-shirt, find out their new styles or what songs they're listening to, authentically get to know them, and you can't everybody, but you try to. And then there's students who struggle the most, I tend to seek out and get in those groups, right? Those who, tend to maybe flirt with some of the behaviors that, that not necessarily are welcomed at school. I put myself right into that, right? Like I'll go into the handball court and just start getting with the guys and talking to them and know who they are, because really deep down, they're little kids and they're scared and they're vulnerable. And they, and they put on these tough personas and they're just figuring out life.
But they're also impressionable. They're
very much so.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm telling you that through doing that, and I did it as a teacher. I was a continuation school teacher for 6 years, and that really helped me because these were the students that had been really cast aside and maybe given up on, or had personal struggles that were so bad that they just couldn't operate in schools. And I learned very quickly they were not going to learn from me until they trusted me and they knew I cared.
Yep.
And then they would learn from me. And to me, that was like the aha. And I was like, if I could do that as a teacher, I could do that as an administrator.
My personal mentor that I mentioned about this transformation I had or awakening that I had 3 to 4 years ago, taught anger management classes, if you will. It's an easy, broad way to put it, at Folsom Prison.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about going in to a prison, a very hostile environment, and trying to correct someone's pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
What?
Huge.
Yeah. No, he didn't get any, and he realized early on that he was gonna get nowhere until he earned their respect,
absolutely,
and their trust.
Yeah, and you got to get it. They don't. Not all kids come with us ready to respect and right. They don't. They have trust issues. They may have issues at home. They've had issues with past adults. So they look at you and say, "Prove it. Show me." Right? And not just one day. Not one day saying, "I like your shirt." Did you do that for a year? It might take a year for a kid to actually go, that person cares, right?
And being authentic, and I apologize to cut you off, but being authentic and standing in your conviction can be a very lonely place too. Yeah. There's moments when you're out there and you have been vulnerable, but you're standing by what you believe in, and it may not be well received. Yeah, absolutely. He mentioned and I've had that with my own personal experience, but he mentioned there was many times, weeks, months that would go by where, nope, I'm going to keep going. Yeah,
the perseverance through that. And I think it's easier to default to that non-personal, fear-based, rely on the hierarchy title that I've been given to kind of get through, right? But I believe that doesn't help. It doesn't move cultures to a positive culture to a positive place.
It's also easier. That's the easy card to play.
It's a default.
You know what? Yeah. Because I said so, and move on.
I've been knighted as a principal. So what I say, and in education, it's not like that, like you do get a title, you do have authority.
Sure.
But it's also different, right? Because your teachers unions are strong. Parents, you're a servant, right? And you're a servant leader. And so you're not the king of the castle, right? You have that title, but how you earn that respect and leadership is through that building of relational trust. And then people will follow you. Because what I've learned is people won't follow a title, right? They'll pretend or, make it look like it through compliance because of the hierarchy, but they won't truly follow you until they know, again, you care and that you have the right value system in place.
There's a time for you to be at the pulpit, speaking to the masses, and then there's times for you to be hands-on.
Absolutely.
And I remember those moments with some of the leaders that, I'm thinking back to some teachers and bosses that I've had through work, and the ones that I'm on an overnight working at Lowe's, and it's 3 a.m. and I'm throwing 50-pound bags of sand and doing something, and it's not even my department. Right. And then boss man's there, store manager, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm here to help you guys out tonight."
Respect.
I'm like, forever grateful.
Respect.
Like, it's those moments that he's like, "Here, take a break, go get a water or something. I'll throw this for you." Yeah. And instantly buy-in,
And here's the thing, everyone's watching, right? So at an end of a concert, just take, right, at the school, everyone's leaving, what have you, you have that one custodian who's putting away chairs, right? What's the power of the principal saying, "I'm going to help put away chairs," right? Like, I've done my shaking hands and what have you, but they're watching you every day. You think I always tell, you think we're supervising students and teachers, they're watching us, right? As leaders. And so it's important to model those characteristics or those efforts because they go, well, if he does that or she does that, then what does that mean for me? Right?
Well, the thing is too, is that whether it's other staff or students seeing you do that, I would guess that most people thought, "Wow, that would be nice if I helped out. This guy has to break down 200 chairs right now." Yeah. But they don't.
Yeah. Not always. Not always. The good ones do. The good ones do.
Sometimes.
Yeah. The ones who are aware, right? And they go, yeah. I think some people just have helpful hearts too. And that's why I've said, the word servant leadership. I'm a big believer in that, right? And just meaning that you're there to serve. I had a mentor of mine tell me, like, as you get promoted up the hierarchy, don't think you're having less, right? You're not escaping less responsibility. You're putting more people on your back. So you're really going down, right? Because you have more on you.
You're weighted down.
You're weighted, right? And so it was a good way to look at it because, you know, when you first get into it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm a teacher. Now I'm going to promote to activities director, assistant principal. You know, it's like,
You have this path.
is this path, right? And you think you're going up, but you're really just taking on more. And that's the importance of having our very best leaders in the top positions.
Well, kudos to you, Brad. I'm absolutely inspired by your career so far, and look forward to you know, our partnership and community involvement, and watching your path. You know,
And same for you guys. I really admire what you guys are doing and how you're leading. And I think, you know, making those personal connections and serving, you'll have all the success in the world.
Well, and as there continues to be updates in the educational world and things of that nature, obviously we want to have you back on.
There's a lot coming up. AI is coming.
That's right.
It's here.
But you know, time flies, as we know in these sessions, and we really appreciate you being a great guest with us, and look forward to having you on next time. And to all our viewers out there, thanks for being part of our digital barbershop, and we welcome you back next time. Thanks.